Today on Nova Legends podcast, I have Run Coach Jacob Krogh, whose Spartans won the district, the Catoctin district, and it's their first district title, I believe, in 35 years. Coach, is
I think 2003 is our last one. So what is
okay,
it?
so 21 years.
21, 22 years. Yeah.
Yeah, so the people
A
were
long
someone
time.
online was exaggerating, but anyway, 21 years. That's amazing.
Yeah.
They're 17-5 for the year, 8-0, I believe in the district, unless there was a game last night that I missed. Coach, congratulations! Nice to meet you. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, and thanks for what you do to publicize all the sports, all the teams around here. My guys have been sending me clips of your podcast for a while now, so I'm familiar. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, good. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I'm just getting to know. I went to Robinson and Fairfax, who you guys
Okay.
played this year,
Yeah.
and then my older kids went to Yorktown, and we moved out here last year. So I'm just getting to know the players and the teams here. Even though Broad Run is a school, it's been here for a long time, even when I was playing. Um, I know you're English teacher in the school. I believe this is your third year coaching varsity basketball.
This is year four. This is
You're
year four.
four. You're four.
Yeah.
JV coach before.
Yeah. So when I started, I did 2 years as JV, and now this is year. It happens fast, but now this is year four already on varsity.
I can't believe that. So we
Crazy.
you said 21 years since you guys won a title. Why do you think that is? It's not like, I mean, the conference is relatively small, at least this year. It may have been big in the years past. I know Broadrun won at least two football titles back in 2006 or seven because Coach Burnett was there. So it's not like you're not getting athletes. Why
Yeah.
was it such a long drought, do you think, to win districts at Broad Run?
Yeah, so I've only been a part of the picture for 6 years. I'm not a local, so I can't really speak too much before I got here. It used to be a bigger district with guys like Tuscarora and Heritage and Valley were all in that same district as well. So it did get a little bit easier as far as the field shrinking. And previous years, I know they've sent D1 guys like or had juniors that then transferred to private schools, things like that. So there's been talented teams that have made it to regionals, as the second seed before. So for whatever reason, that banner was just empty. Some solid coaches that came through as well respected coaches in the area. So it is strange. We have a strong sports tradition. It's never necessarily been, we've never been a walkover, but it is crazy that we've never won that district.
Yeah, it's hard to believe it.
Yeah.
And this year, you guys have a very good team, one of the best outside shooting teams in the area for sure. And you've played the best teams in Loudoun County, including Riverside and Loudoun Valley, Tuscarora. It's not like you ducked anyone, but to be fair, the district is not that strong. It's just so interesting. You guys, an excellent team. And you wouldn't have necessarily had to be this year to win it, even though I guess it did come down to the last game, the last night. If Woodgrove would have won yesterday, it would have been a tie for the title.
Yeah, we would have been playing at Loudoun County, for a tiebreaker had Woodgrove beaten us. And our first matchup with Woodgrove came down to a point. So,
Yeah,
we ended up 8-0 in the district, but competitive games throughout. Yeah.
yeah, I know. And County was down this year, but at least better than last year. But sometimes it's better to be lucky and good, and I think this year you guys are lucky and good.
Hmm.
You said you're new to the area. Where did you go to high school and where
Yeah,
you
I
from?
grew up played ball in West Michigan, and then went to Wheaton College out in Illinois.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How did you end up here?
Kind of a crazy connection. I knew I wanted to work at I wanted to teach English at a diverse school that was well supported, that had a basketball opening, and I ended up getting connection on the teaching side through an alumni. And then so once I got a teaching offer at Broad Run, I called, found the varsity coach's name on Google, called him. He answered a phone number he didn't have. Like, imagine answering a phone call when you don't have the number. He answered and we talked for an hour about hoops and life. This was Coach Costello. And he said, yeah, you got a job in the building already. I'll try to find a spot for you on my staff. And just off that 1 hour phone call, I was like, this seems like a special guy that I want to, learn under. So that's kind of how I ended up all the way out here. Random connections, but it all seemed to align.
And were you a basketball? I mean, were you a pretty good player in high school as well?
I had an average high school career, a couple years on varsity, that kind of thing. Very, very good coaches. And now the more I get into the business, the more I realize I was getting a pretty good internship there, my years playing there. So
Does Western Michigan have a Midwest basketball culture? Or we all know about Eastern Michigan or like the Detroit area and the Lansing
yeah.
area.
Yeah,
How about Western Michigan? Is it kind of like Ohio or Indiana where basketball is important in a small
yeah,
town?
It's a really good hoop scene. I really do imagine or wonder how our hoop scene here would compare. I hope to one day kind of get to organize and take my players up for a Christmas tournament to play against my old team. But it's a really good hoop scene there, and very very competitive when it makes it to the state level against those Lansing and Detroit teams.
What airport would it be in Western Michigan? Or I guess you have to drive?
I was near Grand Rapids. Yeah, you think about heading out for a game?
Yeah. Probably not. I think I'll catch you. I'll catch you guys when you get back
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
in the town.
yeah.
So, you said that when you got the job here, you wanted to get a job where coaching was involved. You wanted a teaching job where you could coach.
Yeah.
When did you first think that you wanted to be a basketball coach?
It's kind of the family business. I didn't really put all the pieces together, but my dad coached me a little bit growing up. My brother is out in California. He's a history teacher and a basketball coach, so teaching and coaching is a lot in the family business. I didn't really put all the pieces together until, graduated from college, knew I wanted to be around the game. Didn't think I would get a varsity job this quickly, but slotted into the JV head coach job they had open. And then, just learned to love it, loved working with the kids, and opportunities kept open up.
Who was the first coach that you role modeled off of? I'm sure your dad was one of them,
Yeah.
but who else? Your dad and maybe somebody else.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think every coach is probably a composite of all the coaches they had, in their time growing. So I played for Eric Elliott in West Michigan. He was D3 All-American, ended up playing pro over in Sweden, I believe. Came back, coached some D3 as well before taking over. Just like as far as demanding the best out of his players, no nonsense, rewarding hard work, those kinds of things, I definitely learned from Coach Elliott over there. And then from Broad Run, I was, you're kind of alone as the JV coach with your own team, but I learned a lot from Coach Costello. I don't know if you overlapped with him at all, but just
Yeah.
really special guy. I think anyone who knows him will quickly tell you, like, with him, it was always bigger than basketball. So I did learn a lot just about like the culture of how to build a program, how to treat people, like realizing you have 4 years with a kid that, yeah, that's about basketball, but the rest of your relationship with them won't be. And what kind of deposits can you make during your time, stuff like that. When I got the job, I thought coaching was all baseline out of bounds plays, and Coach Goss helped me realize like it's relationships, it's culture, it's treat people the right way.
Yeah. One of the coaches that I used to try to model after is Tom Izzo. And I coach AAU. I was a summer league coach as well. So I never was like a full-time coach, but I coached when I had time. And I loved the way Coach Izzo at the time coached defense. He had a very physical style of defense where his teams would body, man-to-man defense would body everyone. And he's one of the guys that was one of my role models. How
Cool.
about you? Anyone on the national stage or even maybe the local stage that you modeled
Well,
after?
Izzo is definitely a legend. So like growing up in West Michigan, like, that was kind of the heyday for a lot of them. I think his teams have been like in the top 10 nationally in rebounding year after year, so I've that, and rebounding is essentially how hard can you get your players to play. So I really have always respected that and the way that he approaches that. So he was a legend even growing up now. Mike Desmond and I were just texting about him because they got the kid headed to the Michigan State game,
That's right.
or to Michigan State. And he said, "Oh, we'll have to go watch Michigan State, Maryland." So Izzo would definitely be one of those guys for me for sure.
No, exactly right. How about at Wheaton? And did you keep tabs on the varsity team? Did you get a chance to
Yeah,
meet the head coach there?
yeah, yeah. So Mike Shower is his name. My older brother played for him. That was kind of, I wanted to play there. Ended up getting a bunch of injuries and just enrolled as a student. But yeah, Mike Shower was great to my brother, and is kind of like close with the family and stuff. We sent a player to play there last year, Eli Will as well. So or 2 years ago, he's in his sophomore year playing for Shower. Again, just stand up dude, high character, like always shooting it straight with the boys. That kind of stuff is cool. From the X's and O's, they run a really cool circle motion offense that we've also stolen from too. So it really is just, a composite of coaches that I'm stealing from.
Yeah. So you end up coming to Broad Run in Ashburn, Virginia, which you probably never heard of before.
No.
Your connection put you in the right uh, set you in the right direction. Do you consider yourself an English teacher that coaches basketball or a basketball coach that teaches English? Because when I was growing up, most of the coaches, they coach PE, which is important, but their love was coaching, and they spent most of their time thinking about it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. You know, my players who I've only had as players, they just assume like, oh yeah, coaches, one of those kind of coaches. And then it's always funny when I get them in class because I teach AP Lang, so like the highest class. for writing. And when I get them in class, then they realize he's just as crazy about this. And I'm standing on chairs and reading my favorite essays and stuff. So you really couldn't make me pick between the two. They both are things I'm super passionate about. Basketball definitely helps me scratch that competitive itch that you don't get as much in the classroom. So yeah, it's both. Don't make me pick.
Who are your favorite writers? One to teach and two to actually read yourself.
Right on, right on. David Foster Wallace is one of my
Hmm.
favorites. If you're familiar with him, just yeah, I love the way he writes. Um, and then to read myself, well, before a previous game, I just wrote like Teddy Roosevelt's "Man in the Arena" speech. That's a
Yeah.
famous speech. I wrote the whole thing on the whiteboard just recently, so I love that one, and that's one of my cool crossover with sports ones.
Your kids are like, coaches gone crazy.
Yeah,
Coaches
yeah,
gone.
maybe.
uh, so you mentioned teaching English is just as important to you as coaching. Um, you know, football coaches nowadays they spend so much time with film and
Yeah,
off season weights. It's really hard to teach a subject. Most of them, if they teach, they teach PE, maybe driver's ed, but there's not a whole bunch of math teachers that
no,
coach football anymore. I'm not sure about basketball, but most of the ones that I know a lot of coaches. Not that many of them are teaching. Some, Coach Rivers is teaching, and some of them are, but most of them, they have another connection to the school that got them the job, and obviously they're great coaches. Do you think it's an advantage to be a teacher in your building and get to know some of the kids?
who was I was just talking to the new coach at Light Ridge. I forget his name now, but he was saying he likes kind of the separation. He gets to come in and be the basketball coach. I've never had that. My high school coach just was a man from the area, so there was a nice like professionalism and separation there that I think could be helpful. But as far as the advantages I see, like one, I think the jobs are the same. Like helping kids become the best version of themselves. Classroom court is very similar. And the other thing I like is that the teachers all know me, so I'll get an email like so and so wouldn't put his phone away, or the good stuff. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so and so had a D minus. I know you talked to him, and now all of a sudden we're B pluses. So the connection with the faculty and getting to see them in the hallways, I think, is a big benefit. I could see the benefits also of having a little bit more space too, and not feeling like the kids, are getting penalized on the court for what happened in the hallway or whatever.
How about the time that it takes to be an English teacher with grading papers and preparing for class as compared to maybe a subject that's not so meaty? Do you think that could be difficult teaching English and being a
Yeah,
basketball coach?
I think about that every time a new set of papers gets turned in. So, my students are very gracious with me. I think they kind of know like November to March. We go hard from August to November, and then all of a sudden the papers get slowed down a little bit from November to March. So my students have been very gracious with me. And I've thought about it before, but I think it would hurt part of my soul to stop being able to teach David Foster Wallace. I don't know.
Yeah. So well, you're dealing with high achieving kids, really cerebral kids in your classes. Um, I was away from basketball. I played basketball and coach, but my son played soccer and my girls dance, and so I didn't really. I got away from the game in 2005, and I got back in when I started doing this social media stuff around 2020. So I was away from the game a little bit, and whenever I watch a YouTube video, like a real a game about video about the present game where it's going. One thing that strikes me is the game has gotten a little bit more complicated. It requires players to do more reading than they had to do, read the sets. A lot less things are choreographed and then when I played. So the kids have to be able to think on their feet. Do you think high achieving kids it's an advantage as players these days, or do you think it can go both ways? Some kids are just natural players, and it comes to them. They don't have to be such cerebral about it.
I don't think I've noticed necessarily with the GPA high kids that they can pick up a sideline out of bounds set quicker. What I have noticed is my first year we were very football player heavy. That was the year we went to the state championship for football, and a bunch of those guys came out. And I feel like when we installed sets, those football guys, it was clockwork. One time they get what we're trying to achieve, they can replicate it on the opposite side of the court. And the non-football guys, I think the install, I need to budget like 2 or 3 times the amount of time. So
That's
that would
interesting.
be the main difference I've noticed is because I think football overloads them so much with the reads and the plays and the counters and the options that they think in that language. Versus I think nowadays our basketball players are pretty reactive, pretty intuitive with all the AAU stuff. They're just getting so many games in that their reactions, I think, and their natural ability to play is way up there. But the install on like the sets, you know what I mean? We were just putting in a backdoor set today, and I was like, why is this taking so long? But they can read when to drive middle and jump stop in a 5-out offense like clockwork.
Yeah. So your first coaching job was the JV coaching job at Broad Run. You had never coached before,
Yes,
which it's interesting because you became a head coach before you were an assistant coach. I guess you probably were assisting on the varsity during the varsity games, but you were a head coach right away. Was that an interesting adjustment to be a head coach right away and not having someone kind of run the drills and run the practice and that sort of thing?
yeah, I definitely got thrown in the deep end. That group was loaded, the JV group. So there's nothing I could have done to mess it up. I think we went like 20-3 that year. Lots of like future college football players and stuff. So they covered up for a lot of my mistakes that first year, and I learned a lot. And then I would try to hop into the varsity practices as much as I could, pick up as much as I could. I thought I was ready, foolishly. And then November came and it was like, whoa. So I spent a lot of time on YouTube, a lot of time on basketball Twitter, a lot of coaches clinics trying to catch up. But yeah, definitely got thrown in the deep end. My players helped me get to the other side of the pool.
How would you describe the kids in your program in terms of just how they are, and are they the same as the school population generally?
Man, I I maybe every coach says this, maybe not. You talk to more coaches than I do, but we got the best kids. I mean, like it's crazy. Even our parents are really solid. Like I know a lot of the times what really drains the life out of coaches is not necessarily what happens during the 32 minutes, but it's the stuff that goes on in the background. I mean, you coach, you're probably aware of that. Our players, Broadburn it's an old school, it's got a hometown culture, it's got a low maintenance culture, and that's how I describe our kids. They're high investment, low maintenance. Like we got a lot of guys who care about the team and a lot of parents who just like they want to see their kids succeed. When we won the district championship at Woodgrove. It was just a really cool picture. Picture of pictures. All these parents flood down, all taking pictures, all so happy for their guys, whether or not their kid went in the game or not. Like it's again, maybe every coach says this, but it's a special culture of Broadrun. It's what brought me there in the first place, and it's definitely what's keeping me around.
Yeah, so I went to the Yorktown game yet last year, and then I went to a couple games. And you beat them at home last year. I was there, and I've been to at least a couple games in your gym this year. You have a good energy in your gym, and it's a small gym, so
Yeah.
it's loud. Is that student support always been there, or has it kind of grown this year as your team success?
Yeah, I think it was there last year too. The the kids on our team, I think, are well liked, engaged kids in the school body, which brings out a lot of them. I think being a teacher also helps. But Broad Run, again, it kind of feels like its nickname used to be Cornfield High back in the day when it was in the middle of the cornfield, and that stuff just carries over. It's just got a little bit of that hometown feel. The fans, the students are active. I'm not sure which games we're at, but we've had some crowds that were just bonkers. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's pretty
Yeah,
crazy to see. I'll see a kid in English class, sitting there writing an essay. And then I'll look up during the game and they're screaming and hollering. It's like, well, you get to see all kinds of kids. Yeah.
yeah, they're fun kids. So when I
Yeah.
went when I went to Robinson, and then I officiated later on. So I've been to Broad Run not as a player, but definitely as an official. And back then, there were only four schools in Loudoun County. There was Broad Run, there was Parkview, and they were big rivals. And there was Loudoun County and Loudoun Valley, and they were big rivals. That was it. And now there's, I think 18 high schools,
Crazy.
I think, and there's plans for more. Um, is it a different feel being at one of the older schools? Because I know when you're on the road, all the schools have a very similar floor plan. They all feel the same. Whereas Broad Run is definitely unique. Do you like that feel? Does it feel differently than the new schools?
I love it. Again, I'm a transplant, so I can't speak. Like I only hear the stories of, oh, the old days, Parkview versus Broad Run. I know, so I can't speak to that. I got a coach on the staff who always says we were so scared driving through these cornfields because you knew those fans are going to be crazy and all that stuff. So I can't speak to the how it used to feel, but now it does just feel rooted. You know what I mean? It's an old building, it's an old court. And it's got a lot of history. So I just feel like I have to think that kind of transfers over and the kids feel like they're a part of something bigger. I'm sure it would be fun to start a new school, you know what I mean? Establish an identity. I could see the attractiveness in that, but to join something with a history and a heritage and stuff, I don't know. I love being a part of it.
So when you go over to Riverside here and you see our brand new school, brand new gym, it doesn't make you envious at all?
Oh, for sure, for sure. They're two shooting machines. They're beautiful gear. Mike does a great job fundraising and all that stuff too. So definitely like the facilities at some places, if I could swap them out, you know what I mean, and have them at Broad Run, sure. But as far as the heart of it, I wouldn't switch that for anything.
Yeah, yeah. It's Burr runs a very special place, and I really like going to games there. So when you got the head job, the varsity job, was it a surprise to you to be a varsity coach at a relatively young age, or I know you had success on JV. I think the first year you guys won so many games. Did you kind of expect it, and what did it feel like when you got it?
Honored is definitely the word to use. When I came on to the staff for Koss, he kind of told me, "Hey, I think I got 4 years left." You know what I mean? I thought, okay, 4 years. That give me 4 years as JV coach, build my resume, learn a lot, be a bit older. And then after 2 years, he kind of unexpectedly retired. His grandkids moved away. He wanted to chase grandkids, stuff like that. So I thought, oh man, I'm a little young for this. What was I? Probably 24, 25 when I put in for it. So I said, hey, I'm in the building. I'll put in for it. So did not expect necessarily to get it. I would have understood if they went a different direction, but yeah, just honored that my principal Ryan, Dave Spage, and my athletic director Ryan Young kind of gave the keys to this kid 24, 25. And I told him I don't know everything, but I care a lot about the students. I care a lot about the culture I build, and we'll make it work from there. So it was crazy. It was a shock to the system for sure. And again, players kind of helped me out and we figured it out from there.
Yeah. Well, last year you guys were 15-10. You had some really nice wins, for sure. You got into the regionals, and I believe you lost to Tusky last year, who got all the way to the state final.
Yeah, yeah.
So you must have felt good, after last season, even before Ryan Brzezinski transferred from Briarwoods, I believe. You must have felt pretty good about this year after having such a successful 2024.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely played the right way, set some things in motion last year. Woodgrove beat us 3 times last year to win the district, but all close games. So we felt like we had the tools to improve. Graduated 3 seniors, 2 very high impact ones if you caught us last year. But yeah, played Tusky into overtime in the regional semifinal in a game that could have gone either way. And then the more they won, the more it was like validated how solid we were, and also the more it stung, you know. But definitely came into this year knowing like the best version of ourselves could compete at a really high level. So it does feel like this is the process of like a 10-month system of belief. You know, when last year ended in March, like this was kind of the goal to be back in this position 10 months later, and the kids made it work.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think that Tusky team from last year is? I think the team this year is even better. I that team last year got all the way to the final, as you said. I believe they lost by 1 point. They had a furious rally in the fourth quarter to get back into the game, and they almost had their chances to win. But this year with Colin Bird and Josh Fegan, I feel like the team was even stronger. How do you see it?
Hard to compare. I mean, those they had a trio of guards last year. I mean, 3 dudes who could just go. You know what I mean? Whereas this year, it feels like they have guards, wings, and bigs. You know what I mean? So maybe a little bit more multifaceted. So in some ways, harder to match up because they got guys at all the levels. But we saw them recently after Bird transferred. You know what I mean? And I feel like since that game, they beat us, and Bird went for 30 something. And then since then, I feel like they've been trending up. So if we make it to the stage where we see him again, I'll have to go back and see some of the more recent footage because I feel like they're getting better every game. So honestly, if you've been keeping a close eye, you might have a better idea than me. You want to give me a scouting report?
Exactly, you scouted for. No, that I think their last game, I've seen them 4 or 5 times this year. The last game against Loudon Valley, and Loudon Valley was coming off a big win against Woodgrove. That was the best I've seen them play all year, and they really are peaking for the playoffs. And I know you're thinking about going over there today, so maybe they'll put on a show against Heritage, who's been very very solid.
Yeah, that should be a
As
good
well.
one.
So the first time I knew you guys were going to be good this year, my daughter was in a play. My daughter was in a school play in the spring, last
Okay.
spring, and it was a Saturday matinee. So they had a little intermission, and I walked down to the gym to see what was going on. And I walked in and I saw Jerome Scott, Jordan Scott's father, and you guys had just beaten South Lakes by like 15. Maybe that was fall league.
That was in the fall. Yeah,
It was in a
yeah,
fall league. It was in a fall
yeah.
league. You guys had just beaten South Lakes by 10, 15 points. And they were really, they had like surprised looks on their face. And that's what I knew. Like,
What's
Brian Run
going on?
must be for real this year. That
Yeah.
South Lakes team is strong.
I remember that game. Now, I haven't followed them because they're 6A, but they may have been missing some football guys for that. Is that correct?
I don't think they have football guys. I think they had most of their team. Yeah.
Yeah, that was big for us. I remember that was the third game out of three for us, and we were like, hey, we all know this guy's name. Like, let's go take a swing, the best one we can. And I wonder if my players would pinpoint that as well as when they might have realized, well, we could be pretty dangerous here. So we've had ups and downs since then, but I think some of my players, as funny as that is, might say that was a key game for us. So you're in the building for a play, you said?
Yeah, my daughter goes to Riverside and she's in
Yeah,
a play and it was a matinee. So I just wandered down there and I'm friends with Jerome Scott.
cool.
And I said, hey, how'd it go? I just figured, oh, he won by 30. That's what they usually say. He said, no, we just lost by 15. I'm like, you guys lost to, and Jordan was there. Otherwise, Jerome wouldn't have been there. I'm like, you
Yeah,
guys lost but to Broad Run? He says, yeah. I was like, whoa. So yeah, that's what I knew. I'm like, you guys, Broad Run's going to be strong this year. So
yeah. They
let's
don't.
talk. Let's talk about your. I'm sorry, I interrupt you.
Oh, I was gonna say they don't really hang banners for fall league games, but yeah,
Yeah,
that was a big moment for us.
exactly. I could tell a story that Mike Desmond would laugh about falling, but I don't want to get in trouble today.
Okay.
Let's talk about Ryan Brzezinski, not
Yeah.
Brzezinski. Now I know he was supposed to play at Briar last year, but he was injured, I believe, for at least part of the year.
I didn't I think he had ankle injuries. He's still wearing an ankle brace now. So I do think he was hobbled with an ankle or something last year.
Yes, and I saw them play, and I didn't notice a 6'6" guy that can ball.
Yeah, he might have been
When,
out,
when,
but
when did you? Yeah, when did you first know that Ryan was going to transfer to Broad Run?
the a few of our players play AAU together, like Ben Bulla, Brady Pollard, and Adam Purdue, and Ryan plays on that same AAU team. But I try to stay out of the whole transfer business. So I honestly like the first day of school is the school that they walk into the door is the school they're allegedly supposed to play for. So the first day he walked through the building, like the first day of school, I remember being like, okay, this is legit. Ryan Brzezinski is a Broad Run. So yeah.
Yeah, someone's playing a joke on you. He just showed up the first day, then he walked in, and then he left.
Yeah, a regular kid on stilts, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, that really changed things because when you have
yeah.
a 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", how tall is he?
It's taller every day. Probably 6'7" now. He's 6'10" on Twitter or whatever, but he's a legit 6'7".
So when you add a 6'6", 6'7" kid to your lineup, that had to excite you for this year.
For sure, for sure. I mean, and he's defensively can protect the rim. Offensively, he can score in the paint or shoot it from outside. Just really versatile. And the other thing is like he's just a really hard worker. Like if you scroll up in our text messages, it's Coach, can you open the gym? Coach, can you open the gym? So yeah, there's an encore impact that's obviously been massive, but also just to add a guy that really cares about basketball and doing the right way and is committed to taking care of his body, like that. If you have enough guys like that, it kind of creates a snowball. You know what I'm saying? Where the
Mhm.
culture, this is the way we act, this is the way we carry ourselves. So he's been huge impact on and off the court.
I would describe him as a wing player, but he's very comfortable inside. I think like if he at the next level, he can definitely play in the wing. But I feel like he's a slasher. He's a post player. But how would you describe him?
He has some of the most natural post footwork I think we've had in a big that's come through here. One, our JV coach who's on our staff, Marvin Phillips, he played professionally overseas as kind of an undersized big, 6'5", 6'6". And so we were just in the gym this morning and he, does 20 minutes of post work. And I mean, Ryan just soaks that stuff up. So he's just got a natural touch around the rim. Some guys you can tell they're tall, so they get put down there and they don't know what to do, but he's got that natural touch around the rim. And then recently has really been lighting it up from three as well. So I think he's one of those guys. I don't know a ton about the college game, to be honest, but he seems like one of those guys who can stretch the floor for you. And if someone tries to put undersized on it, he's not just a tall kid. Like he really understands the post game. So yeah, he's got a lot of levels.
Yeah, your assistant coaches are pretty intense over there, and I will say, I bet you they're a pretty good five themselves. If they ever go play pickup together, they look pretty athletic.
Yeah, yeah. As a young coach, it's really important who you put on the bench with you. So I've really sought out people with playing experience who can relate to the kids in a lot of different ways. We got some young coaches, some coaches that can, circle everybody up with some wisdom. So we got a great staff, and that's been really helpful, especially given my lack of experience.
Yeah. Well, Coach, I would describe you as a coach that was very communicative to the officials before this year. But I noticed this year you haven't been talking that much. I was at a game, one of your games this year, and you guys lost. I thought you had quite a few calls go against you. And I thought you were very patient this year, whereas last year I felt like you'd have met at the first call that you didn't like. Have you changed your attitude towards
Oh
officials this
man,
year?
I'm working on it. You said you were an official?
Yeah,
Yeah, when
I
did
was a
you?
Cardinal guy. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, right on. So I'm trying to get better. I don't know if you talked to all the refs, if you would say, "Hey, Jake's been better." I don't know. Maybe you saw a good. I am trying to be better. I think the more I focus on my players, the better I feel about it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then I'll get to the end of the game, like, why did I waste so much time talking to the refs? So I'm trying to get better at it. I texted Jay from Rockridge. He's a few years ahead of me. He's got a couple kids, and my wife and I have a kid on the way here in a couple of weeks. And we were texting, and I said, once I have a kid, am I gonna finally settle down with the officials? And he said, no, you'll be just as crazy, but you won't have slept the night before. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh no. So they got a hard job. Like
Yeah.
half the stuff I complain about, then when I watch film, they got it right. And they had to listen to me complain. So I am every year trying to get better at it.
Yeah, as a player and a coach, I was tough. I was tough on officials too. And Randall Bills, for I don't know if you know him, Battlefield coach,
No.
he does a great job. Now, how poor the officiating, he never says a word. I don't know how he does it because I don't have the ability to do that. When I was so my son was a pretty good soccer player at Yorktown, and I remember there was one game we were playing Wakefield, and I thought it was an obvious offside call or whatever. I yelled at the linesman, offsides. And a guy looked up, and it's one of my favorite officials. He's a good official and a guy I really like a lot. I felt so bad for yelling so loud. And that was the last time I yelled at an official. That was
Yeah.
probably my son's like third to last high school game. So it was,
Wow.
the timing was right. But I wish I wouldn't have spent so much time yelling at officials. But I'm telling you, I was much worse than you. So you can feel
Okay.
good about that,
So,
coach.
some guys I look down the line and they're just standing there as cool as a cucumber. And I respect, I don't know how they do it. I think every year I'm getting a little bit better, but honest, the game stops if we don't have these officials. You know what I mean? And you gotta, what kind of person, you did it, but what kind of person signs up to get yelled at by a
Right.
couple hundred people every week?
Well,
So
yeah.
I do appreciate what they're doing. It's a thankless job.
I'll tell you a little secret. You can't tell Cardinal I told you this, but if you want to get away yelling at refs, what you do is just yell "sir," or because if you yell "sir" at them, they can't come over here and say, "What'd you give me a technical foul for?" Well, you called me "sir," so so you sit on the bench and say "sir," and there's really nothing they can do with that. So anyway, I don't want to give you any more bad advice. Let's get away from officiating for a little bit. So I want to talk about another one of your players who's I think a very natural scorer, Adam Purdue, who I believe is a junior. Is that
Mhm.
right, Coach? 6'2", scored a lot of points last year as well. He's got to be coming up on 1,000 points for his career already.
He just hit it in the Woodgrove District Championship game. He hit 1,000.
Absolutely, this kid is a scorer. He's a very his game is very unique. It'd be hard for me to tell you he plays like a particular person. Tell us a little bit about Adam.
Dude, he's a phenomenal player. He played with us right after finishing eighth grade. We took him to our varsity summer league. So, 13-year-old. And I remember we were playing a really good team, Potomac. We were playing Potomac, I think, down at Randolph Macon. And he hit 4 threes in a row as an eighth, just finished his eighth grade year. And then his older brother was our best player. His older brother had the ball in the wing. Maybe this is the story you're looking for, maybe not. But I remember he was standing in the corner. And in the middle of the game, Adam said, Mateen, drive. My man's not going to help. He understood he had just hit that many threes in a row that his man wasn't going to pinch off the corner to help on a baseline drive, and literally mid-game told his brother to drive. Like, that's why I looked down at my bench, like to my coaches, like, did you just hear that? Like, this eighth grader, he just understands the game. He has for a long time. So his game is evolving. He's obviously an incredible three-point shooter, can touch the paint, sneaky quick, we like to say, you know what I mean? Can touch the paint, but he's just he's always understood the game and he's always put in hard work. So it's really not surprising how good he's gotten.
And he played varsity that freshman year
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. Freshman year, he worked his way into the starting lineup. Kind of that year as a defensive like specialist. I think he scored 8 or 9 a game. And the last year went crazy, 16, 17 points a game. This year, similar.
Yeah, that's very rare to start as a freshman on the varsity. You also have a kid that I think has one of the prettiest shots that I've seen this year, Braden Lee. I love the way the ball comes out of his hands, his fingertips, I should say. Tell us a little bit about Braden. He's a senior.
Yeah, he's 4 years in the program. His freshman year, he was the kid who could shoot on freshman, and then got moved up to JV and ended up playing a one varsity game with us. And then sophomore year on varsity, kind of came off the bench as a shooter. And then the last 2 years, he's been a starter, and he's been a consistent 3-point shooter the whole time. You need to interview whoever his shooting coach was, because if you talk to him, I'm like, how'd you get this good at it? He says, I forget who it is. I'd love to give him a shout out, but he said in seventh grade, they hired somebody to fix his shot, and ever since then, he's been able to shoot. I'm like, well, it's not normally that easy, but his game has evolved. So he's the same 3-point shooter he's been, but he's defending at a high level now, touching the paint, making decisions. So it's kind of cool to see he didn't just let his greatest skill be the only thing that got him on the court. Now he's adding more to his game and really helping us. So that's cool.
Yeah, he definitely has great, extremely good technique. So I know you have a couple other players. I don't want to shortchange them. Tell us about some of your players.
Yeah, we got a solid group of seniors. DJ Bennett has been really good for us. Just a program kid, freshman on freshman, sophomore on JV. Last year came off the bench on junior. And this year, talk about the improvement we've made. A lot of it has been his jump. So he's up to 10, 11 points a game now, rebounding the heck out of the ball. And just one of those seniors who understands this is the end of the line, you know what I mean? And is giving it everything he's got. It's really cool when that happens, when
Yeah.
people realize, hey, I'm reaching the end of the road. I don't want to hold anything back here. So his leadership and obviously his step up and play on the floor has been really cool. And a good group of seniors to fill out the roster too. Z Gotra has been contributing for us, Jace Evans, Brody Anthony. So we got a solid group of 5 seniors who really just want to win. And then Ben Bulla, I think he's got to have the highest plus minus in Loudoun County. He's our point guard, and he's like, he's 6 points, 5 assists a game, but just a really special dude. And this year we've been tracking like our plus minus, and when Ben's on the floor, our whole offense works like way better. So kind of one of those old school point guards, who's pass first, gets it to the people in the right spots. So he was varsity last year, stepped up this year. Same with Brady Pollard, who's like our second leading rebounder right now, just a classic scrappy guy. We got a couple sophomores too now that are helping us at seventh, eighth man.
Yeah. Is that your favorite stat, the plus minus?
It's a big one. It's I don't think you can't take it game by game because sometimes funky stuff can happen. But if you take it week by week, some people start to show what's happening. Yeah. Did you like that stat back in the day? They have that?
Well, it's something we didn't talk about in basketball until recently. It's a hockey stat, and then it's interesting. I really haven't thought much about it, but there's this player from American that transferred to Portland this year, a big guy named Jermaine Balaseeker, and I like this kid a lot, and I felt like he got shortchanged at American. So yesterday, I just was looking into this internet. I looked up his plus minus at Portland. It's like -95. And I was just like, Jesus, maybe American was. I mean, he's shooting 60% from the field. He's got, his assist to turnover is 4-1 for a big guy. I mean, I don't understand it, but
That's a deep dive. That's a deep dive right there. You're getting into the weeds. That's a deep dive.
Yeah, well, maybe his team has got, they're 7-19, so maybe everyone on the team has a plus.
Yeah, you'd have to look at it relative to, I guess, the other starting lineups, maybe.
Yeah, so maybe I need to go a little bit deeper, and that was a premium subscription, so I didn't get to.
Oh, funny.
I was on the free subscription. So tell us a little bit about the game against Woodgrove. Was it tight? Did you feel like the game was well in hand, and what was the feeling like after you won the game?
A couple minutes into the game, I leaned over to one of my assistants and I said, "This is the exact opposite game of the last time we played them. Last game was 45-44, and then this game they were close to the 60s. We hit 70, so the shots were falling. So it was a very different game than the first time we played them. Similar in the sense that we knew it was going to be a battle. I mean, I think we've played them 6 times since I've been here, and every single one of them has been a battle. So we hit some shots, went up early in that one, and then what I did like the most, we took care of the ball and we offensive rebounded, so we got a lot of extra possessions, but and the full court press was effective as well. So I think we were up maybe 15 at halftime. They cut it down in the second half to 7 or 8, and our guys responded. So it was a big win for us. Finally played 32 strong minutes, and it was cool to see those guys get rewarded.
Yeah. Well, you have at least one game and maybe two where there's no elimination that you have to worry about. Only your next elimination game will be your first game that you play in regionals.
Right.
Does that change the way you approach districts? The fact that no matter what happens, you live to see another day?
I hope not, because you want to play the right way, play as hard as you can. So at the beginning of the year, we kind of started thinking of the year as chapters. And so this is kind of like that final chapter, and we shouldn't have to be coaching effort, shouldn't have to be tweaking some of our basic stuff that we do. It's really about just like being consistently at the highest level. So I think our kids are pretty locked into that as the mentality here. It's not about winning or losing or advancing or the fact that we're safe. It's about like now more than ever, we need to be playing at our highest level. And so even the intensity of practice today, I got the sense that like we care about playing the best we can play in this season. So
They probably got some wind in their sails, being
yeah.
district champs for the first time in 21 years. Well, who gets to put the banner up? The tournament winner or the district regular season winner?
You know what? I think it's the regular season, I think, which would make sense to me because you got to win 8 games to win that,
Mhm.
not 2 or 3.
Mhm.
So I would think that, but well, I don't know. Woodgrove got them both the year before, and Tuskegee, when we were in the same district, I think got them both the year before. So you know what? I'm not going to ask. I'm going to ask them to put it up if we
Yeah,
don't win the district tournament.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one thing for sure, I think it's safe to say the other district is stronger this year. But you've played. It's not like you've ducked any of them. You played all the tough teams. What are some of the keys to you guys advancing in the regional tournament? I know you don't want to look ahead, but what are some of the things you can do as a team to make sure you guys play at your maximum potential?
Yeah, definitely got to take care of business first. Although having that automatic bid is nice. It's are you asking for scouting reports on those
No,
teams?
not scouting board. So here's some of the things you're looking for from Broad Run
Oh, I see.
that'll ensure that you guys get to the next level.
Yeah. So some points of emphasis, in the region, those games are going to be less than 10-point margins either way. So how are you executing end of quarter situations? You know what I mean? If you get the ball with 40 seconds left, are you taking the last shot? Things like that are really, really important. Getting good shots every time, understanding, we call it our KYP, know your personnel. So helping appropriately off of the other team's non-shooters, rotating. What are we trying to do with the pick and roll? Just like some of these little tiny things where you can pick up 4, 6, 8 points. In some games, that's the difference between a 20-point win and a 12-point win. But in the region, that's going to be the difference between a 4-point loss and a 4-point win. So end of quarter execution, scout and report stuff, all that is really the main focus right now.
Yeah. Coach, the offseason now, we have to worry about this transfer portal when you got players like Purdue and Barzanski. Is that something that you worry about as a coach?
Oh man, I just invest in the relationships as much as I can. One of those guys showed me his Instagram DMs were like full of private school coaches trying to get him. I remember after one fall league game, there was some private school, like this is in the fall, some private school coaches trying to get him to transfer to play that winter. Just craziness. I try to stay out of all of that. I invest in the kids. You know what I mean? I make sure they know they're valued here, and most importantly, if they want to work hard, like we're gonna work hard here. But you know, from there, I try not to spend too much wakeless nights on that.
Yeah. Well, any kid that thinks about transferring to private school should watch video of Colin Bird's last few games because I've never seen a happier basketball player. He's just having fun. He's scoring. He's helping his team win. He was at Paul VI, and they have incredible talent.
Hmm.
They probably go 15 deep, and he came back in the middle of the season and just he's made the absolute most of it. And I think it says a lot about the public school game and the Loudoun County game. Well, Coach, this has been great. I know you got a busy day for you. I got one question for you. Do you see yourself as a career English teacher and a high school basketball coach, or have you ever thought about would you ever want to get ambitious with the coaching and maybe go do some college basketball?
Yeah, no, nobody's knocking on my door right now. I love Broad Run. I love the students I work with. I love teaching and coaching. I'm in a really good spot right now with great kids. So I probably see this going as for a long, long time.
Yeah.
We got my wife and I got a baby on the way, so I'm willing for that to shake everything up. But right now, just a really, really sweet thing being involved and rooted in this community. So no, if I have my way, this is what I'm doing for a long time.
Yeah. Well, if you guys win state, that your DMs might be blowing up for
I
people
know.
want to hire
I
your
know.
job.
I'll turn those off. I like it here.
Exactly. All right. Well, look, Coach, this has been great. Congratulations. There's nothing in the world like a great basketball season. The only thing that might be a little bit better if you can make a state tournament run. I know that would be very special as well.
Yeah.
But no one could take away from what you've already accomplished. Congratulations. And look, I may see you later on, but if not, I'll definitely see you. At one of the games in the postseason.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity and for all you do to elevate our guys, our players, our programs. This is really fun. Thank you for this.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks again for doing it, Coach.
You betcha. Take
All right,
care.
buddy. Yep. Take care.